In the process of continued improvement, avoid the focus of one or more grades, avoiding problematic internal contexts. Establish relations cause-effect problem. Identify the waste cause in the supply chain, that is, in the whole process before the production and after the production, of course. Measure the delivery service efficiency by the final client. Draw an astral map of the supply chain networks in which the company is involved in with all relevant complexity, and evaluate the real impact of the supply chain nationally and internationally in its costs, times, and inventories along the whole supply chain. A little note here. The logistics products, for some of them, well, the supply chains and its customers, and where the customers are involved. Any business, even a business that relies in antagonistic modalities, that is the activity, that is the transport, that is as old as almost as Eve's sin, and the other is in a reality that is very focused on the immediate result, and so there is no time. And our customer usually doesn't have sensibility or time and isn't aware of the need to interrogate and to question the production processes, the management processes of the activity in which he is inserted. Some multinational companies already offer, that is, so to say, offer diagnose services to evaluate the maturity of a transport process to the customer, either regarding the component to the production, either in the last milestone or in the internal moment. And this is a tool they use to gain some knowledge and to gain a competitive advantages when they're needing to make service proposals. And this is a question that, for example, lots of our customers in freight forwarders don't have, and I'm speaking about my own experience. Most of them do not have a great knowledge of their transport process and their supply chain process. So to which point, this can be a way for the freight forwarders and small freight forwarders to make a difference regarding when facing the competition, and they can try and help their customer to be more competitive in the market where they have to bring their products. Moving on. Identify the weight of the organization internal culture in the conception of logistics solution and in its operational motives. This is the line that we mentioned before with an analysis of strong and less strong points. External factor affecting the lead time, the supply chain or supply chain management. The technology, and this is an important indication, does not solve procedure failures. Develop risk evaluation plans, implement new solutions along the supply chain, develop risk evaluation plans followed by protection and prevention plans, mitigation and substitution of the risk. That is, the transport mode is set on the roadway, and if it is blocked due to bad weather, what can we do? Is there a well-thought plan to move, to change to other activities? Is there other resources, for example, railway, or do we need to find solutions, or can we just wait 5, 6, 7 days for the roads to be available again? If there's a strike in Spain or in France, so these are indications, and we'll stay on these two slides to understand if you see that whether this delay can be a problematic factor in the way you approach your customers or in the design of potential activity areas for your sector. Miguel, with the microphone. The strategic man. Please. If some of the set of phrases and central ideas that we just referred here, and that have to do with the 2 days of debate that we've been having here, how could they be used as a factor of sale and of offer of logistic solutions for our customers from the freight forwarders? Well, I've been working as a freight forwarder for 2 years, and this is changing now. But what happens a lot in our company, and it's my case, is that the planning that we do is still not good enough. Yesterday we mentioned the question of asking several times for an estimate. Of course, we lose time with this request, but this should be included in a plan, and we don't include that. So the customer is losing time, and so are we. If we had a better planning about this, if we counted on these several estimates, we wouldn't be losing so much time. And of course, our objectives aren't as well organized as they could be. They are in some way unconscious in terms of organization, and I think it's the main problem. With the improvements that we're mentioning here, we could evolve and we could change. Who am quite younger, so Miguel, you think that this possibility of us reaching a customer and proposing a plan, well, believing that we can find measures for his company if we make him a diagnosis of quality of his service providing. We're going to the final phase here. Do you think this could be a sales factor? Yes, it can be. It's a partnership with us and the customers. If we can find a better solution, if we can define objectives together, and if we can take into account the needs of all of us, we have to know what are the needs of the customer. We have to go to the heart of the question, speak to the customer, or have a partnership with the customer and any suppliers for a better activity. Yes, of course, and the clients, suppliers. That's the question of the supply chain, to know who supplies to whom and who buys from whom. Lots of our customers are also suppliers, so we have this double standard. Some of our customers are in fact suppliers as well, and we have here our colleague Vash, who is one of our suppliers, but can be our customer as well. As I said before, we emit some goods that are in transit when need be, because transit has a need for some sort of caution. It is created to ensure the rights of the goods in transit to the destination and even after. And not all companies, I know there are several companies that have some guarantees, but small guarantees, and generally they satisfy internal requests. In our case, we have quite an elevated guarantee that besides that, direct customers also satisfies the requests of other freight forwarders with whom we work. So there's a partnership here among all of us, and we help each other out. Pass the microphone, please. Even when we can't fulfill the need of a customer, we speak with our partners. Okay, so you share all the situations. Gonçalo, your customer, if your customer comes to you to ask you to map his needs in terms of transport until his house and then to transform the product. And this maturity diagnose and needs diagnose, if it identifies opportunities of improvement that are superior to 10% of the cost that I have in this process, I'm available to work with you and to do a 10-year contract. This is the challenge. How would you, Gonçalo, answer to this customer? Do you have the mechanisms, the tools, the analysis models? Well, this might be a bit more complicated. I think that it's something that has to be done with quite a lot of planning and working very closely with the customer to know its flaws, to know his strong points, his operational failures, how the departments work, together because I have, for example, companies where the logistics department contacts me to export a product, but I already know that there is a failure within the client's company because the commercial department of the customer didn't communicate the information to the logistics department, so we're going to have more waiting time, incorrect information that has to be corrected. So to have the tools to be able to create the solution. So you don't have a tool that is a diagnosis of the needs of the primary transport of customers. Well, we might have, through our experience, a way to design a plan, but you don't have a diagnosis model. No, that I don't believe we do. So there's here a great improvement opportunity because if we have a tool such an X-ray to see if our arm is broken or an MRI in terms of a different complexity, we can question several things, but we should have a logistic survey that could apply to each phase of the transport process of each customer, primary transport, stocking, secondary transport, distribution, where we already have a set of questions that are universal for all the businesses, and then some of them could be a bit more specific to fuel business, liquid business. If we have this tool, we transport agents, we can have a greater dominion of our transport process. We can also help our customers to know a bit more of what are the inefficiencies, the waste of the management of their logistic process, and that's how we add value. We add value because the customer will be able to fight waste, and because we will open a new door as well. Because most changes in the customer occur for two reasons: because they're looking for a better price, or because there was some malfunction from the previous freight forwarder. These are the two main reasons. There might be others, but these are the two main factors of change: not being happy with the work or the price. The price is determinant.
It is certain that price is very difficult to be reduced if each agent of transport, the logistic process, does not have a policy of continuous improvement to fight waste and to fight mistakes. Well, the solution to add value to our clients as a transport agent has with the value that we add to our clients in two ways: maximizing and improving our work processes that can only be made by understanding where we got wrong. Two, to launch the challenge, to set a challenge to our client to let us diagnose them because we know what they are saying in that area. And this brings us to the logistics survey adapted to each stage. Yesterday we spoke about the SCORE model that the British Council of Transport and Logistics states, in which we have the supply, collection, production, distribution, and the return of documents, inputs, whatever. These 5 stages that are all of them connected and led by the action of planning and control. This generates and brings us to a tool, to a management tool of continuous improvement, which is, I think maybe it's here. The different tools that you see on the second level. The use of DMAIC, it's a scientific method to define, to measure, to analyze, to implement and control. This is fundamental for us that in the supply chain can do this, to plan, execute, control, and update and improve. These 2 tools are fundamental because these tools help us to map the logistic process and the process of the supply chain of each client and of each sector in which our client is involved in. what we need to have is a survey. And the question that I place is if a client would set up this challenge to you, help me to know my supply chain of my suppliers up until my activity. What questions would you do? 5 questions that you would place. I will repeat and I want you to write them down. And for those who are overseas or who are in foreign countries like France, Greece, or Italy, please do the same. If you were to map in order to identify needs of a client, namely regarding the improvement of the supply chain that starts in the suppliers up until its house, either it's a producer or a distributor, what 5 questions would you place? 5 questions, and what is the goal of each question? This is quite simple. 5 questions, and what's the goal of that question? Why are you asking that? You have 10 minutes because you need to think about it. This is homework. 10, 15 minutes to do so. Whatever you want. It can be a distributor or it can be a production agent. It can be a client that sells furniture and he gets furniture for different sources already finished. Then he makes catalogs. Or a client that has raw material and then he will produce furniture. There are the 2 possibilities. In each case, we are analyzing the supply chain of each client as a destiny of the process. 5 questions, 5 goals. The goal of each question. Of course, you can start by understanding which are the goals. Finished? Can we start? Yeah, fans of Futebol Clube Porto are like that. Fast. Who wants to start? Who wants to start with the positions? Who wants to start with any of these factors? Well, I can start. Okay, do it. So I have 5 questions, not by this order, but I was thinking about them and they were appearing. One is quite simple, but it's very important. Where we lose time, to identify where we are losing time with the goal of being more efficient and cutting costs. But how can you measure where you are losing time? How do you measure where you are losing time? Where a process takes longer than it should. Okay, that's a central question. We need to quantify it. So we need to understand the process and to deconstruct the process and to have the measurement of each process and stages of that same process. We cannot do it directly where we lose time. What we are able to do is to define processes and activities of the processes and the times are associated to it with the goal of fighting the waste of time. Do you know what I mean? Your question is a goal to be able to reach the identification of where we are losing time. Is this accurate for you? It's clear. Elio, do you want to say something? Yes, I was about to place that question also in another way, which was, what is your position in the value chain, and what is your future position in that same value chain? Where do you want to be? Where do you wish to be in the future? Okay, but those are initial questions. Probably certain clients simply don't know how to answer that because they don't know where they are. Because first of all, many of the clients don't have the activities divided in sub-activities and don't know how much time it takes to do any of the activities. These 2 gentlemen are from that area, so how long does it take to unload a truck of 32 pallets? 10 minutes, 15, Gonzalo. 10 to 15 minutes, it's only 50% of the time. 10 is 100%, 15 is 150%. Okay, 10, 15, 20, 25 minutes. That's such a variation. Yes, but we need to take into account the situation that can happen. Okay, you are. That's excellent because the deviation, it's from the size of 5 planet Earths. For 10 minutes for all those pilots, it's impossible. It's not because we have more forklifters than it will exit quicker. So, am I doing the right question? If you yourselves in your activity have deviation in the target time of an activity, because I could place my question in other way, where we have a pier in which we have an access, a leveled access to the truck without constraints, with an area to put the pallets, unloading area to be stored afterwards. How much time does it take? 33 pallets with a typical profile of an Euro pallet. Okay, but do you know what I mean? The difficulty that exists in having quick answers for questions that any transport agent needs to be ready to answer. And it's what Ellie was saying before, where we are and where do we want to go. What we want to know is that in our organization, in our clients, the unloading a 33 pallet truck in ideal conditions takes 20 minutes. Ideal conditions is absence of difference of level in the platform of loading, traditionally referred to as a pier, and the truck. And an area for unloading that it's completely free to put each pallet on. So this is an answer, okay? How long does it take with these conditions? So we could ask something else to the client. What is the area for unloading that you have in your warehouse? And if you have conditions to unload the truck, and what are those conditions? I saw people that had sheds. In my professional life, I worked a lot in managing warehouses, defining as a consultant management of the supply chain. And I saw people with training and with experience, with degrees in engineering or in management, that would say that they have a good warehouse. And when I got there, I said, you don't have a warehouse, you have a shed. There is a difference. And sometimes I told her, you don't have a shed, you have a place where to store things. My pantry is better organized than yours, so this is very common in our country. So these are the type of questions that we clearly need to take into account. Because you have a 2 square kilometers warehouse. If you have 50 meters to place the cargo that will be received, we are in luck. Is this a lie? If you go to the terrain sometimes, do you see this or not? Sometimes a forklift is circulated around the pallets. Then we have the others that do the unload without a forklift. It's with a pallet carrier. To our Italian colleagues, and from Greece and Spain and France, this situation is not so common in Italy and France, but in Spain I've seen it a lot, and in France also. Greece I don't know about, but I saw also great conditions of logistic operation, and in Portugal also, but the economic tissue in Portugal, when you speak about logistic operators, is characterized by a total absence of planning and control of the conditions of operation of cargo and of loading and unloading and storage in warehouse side and outside of them. If you were to ask, this has to do with a question that you made at Gonzalo and development of value. If you were to ask to your clients many times, how long does it take to remove from the shelf and get to the expedition area the cargo that it's placed in the longest or in the furthest place of the warehouse, no one knows how to answer. And if you were to ask the standard time for an expedition that they have, all of them will give numbers and will fail, or at least 80% of them will fail. And why? When they get that, we get the hours that we can put the truck there to collect at 4 p.m. and then it only exits at 5 or 6 p.m. I'll make you a question. Where you have more differences? Where do you have more differences? Is in the time where the trucks in the distribution process arrive to the client, where the time that the trucks in the collection are delayed to the following client because the first one was not ready yet to be collected. Is that true or not? You have more problems in collecting or in delivering. Most of the companies in Portugal that are in the transport sector, the great problem that they have is collecting, because never, this is of course in theory, but if you were to analyze the maturity of always, sometimes, rarely or never, I should say that most of your clients, when we are logistic operators are collecting cargo, rarely the clients have the cargo available in the quantity and the conditions that were agreed upon. Even if it's a freight forwarder or a carrier. Am I far from reality? Not, right? Vasco? Am I far from the reality that you know? So the best way, as I told you before, is to solve the problems in the origin. And their origin is the collection. That's why it is so important to give the clients. This gives us great leverage, which is to give them a diagnosis of the maturity of their logistic work processes from its clients to its home. Because it's there where usually the logistic operator cannot go in. Because most of the times it appears to get the goods outside of the home of the client, produced or to be transformed or distributed. And many of the problems that our client has is by the non-qualification of the previous process. Was I clear? Is this clear enough? Anyone wants to place anything from abroad? Is there any question by mail? Okay. Any further questions that you wrote for the survey? I have a question. Before helping the clients, to help them, we need to know who's on the other side, the product that is using the infrastructure, the philosophy. That's the type of question that we can only know that if we ask the question to the client. Okay, but before, we need to understand what we have on the other side, the profile of the client. We need to elaborate the profile of the client, but many times the profile, there is a difference between perception and reality. The client has a perception that it's a very modern company of the 21st century, hyperactive and hyperdynamic, and then when we get there, well, that's my wife. I'm not going to speak about my wife, but my mother-in-law already died. But my mother is a saint. It's a great cook. It's nice. She loves everyone. She helps everyone. So then many men, when they meet their in-laws, they have a different opinion. Where is the truth of the perception that the daughter has of the mother or of the son-in-law has of the mother-in-law? This can be seen on the other hand. For example, what husbands say of their mother and the daughters-in-law, see that she's not a saint at all. There is a difference between perception and reality. When we speak about logistics, we are not speaking about feelings and soul states, but many of the managers and entrepreneurs speak from their soul and not from their objective analysis. Because if you were to get to your clients and say, what is your profile of company? When we speak to our clients, the question is this one: how many of our clients know their business in quantity. Let's ask something. What is your rate of orders that are badly sent throughout the day? Or say, no, everything here goes to the right place. What's the percentage of orders that get to the freight forwarder with weight and measures that are wrong? Well, that's very rare. And this happens a lot. All of this is part of the maturity. That's why I say that what our client tells us, if you go to logistic operators, you want to distribute by the 2,000 or 3,000 parishes of Portugal, and all of them will say, well, my clients are all exceptional. You get there, you are immediately, they have in 10 minutes, you have the goods delivered. Is this true? Of course not, but if we believe in what they say, it's good to have a survey and ask them the delivery time, the average delivery time. Not let them, right, let's put between 0 to 20 or 10 to 20. What can happen is that they will choose the lower ones, but if there are exceptions, we will say, okay, these are exceptions. In the survey, we can improve, because in the survey itself, we can introduce a logic of maturity by saying that instead of an average time, what we can ask is, delivery happens in a time period up to 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, for example. And then here, we can write never, rarely, sometimes, frequently, or always. This is a matrix of maturity of a process, and we leave to the client that has the possibility that instead of placing a lot of hypotheses, we can remove this one because the target is that the delivery will not be longer than 10 or 15 minutes. So what he needs to say is that if his deliveries to his client network are here, if they are not here or here, and we know that he will say that they are here, but we will be able to measure it. But how many of our surveys are built this way? But we ask is, please place here from 0 to 10, and he will say, he will answer automatically, of course. When he sees this, we need him to frame this in the target time 10 or 15 minutes. Depends on the business, of course. But then he will have to understand that the option right one or the other is dynamic, and they will rarely right always. If he's someone who is in love with his own company, frequently or sometimes. But we will be able, on the first 100 deliveries, we can be able to say, dear doctor, Milker, for example, your deliveries sometimes happen up to 10 minutes because it's only 40% of the time. This allows for two things. We will change prices or try to improve processes, but more than increasing prices, we need to improve processes or we will have to do with an increased price. Of all the deliveries that take more than 10 minutes has an increase. I'm not saying that we can increase prices, but we need to place the client in face of the improvement possibility, because to have a truck stopped or waiting at a pier or one man or two in each 10 minutes costs something. If it takes twice longer, it costs twice longer, or twice more also. So these are logistic problems that from freight forwarders or operators, imports it's different, but they have the terrible habit that is mixed with a terrible need of incorporating that benefit. And what happens is in all the supply chain, there are several ineffectiveness like this of usually who is in charge of this are the ones who less contribute to it, but it's the ones who need to review them and put them on the debate. Does this make any sense? Is this clear? Okay. And these are maturity levels diagnoses. And immediately they signal improvements. Because if I have a profile of a client that tells me that the deliveries happen up to 10 minutes, and the truth is that it only happens in less than half, he will be happy when I tell him that he has a problem. Of course, he will not be happy because he will think, well, these guys are studying the problem.
Now, in terms of marketing and logistics, we have to involve the strategic vision of the company. We need to make transport and in a way that is efficient and viable for us and profitable for us and for the client. And our strategy has to have tactic and operational support in the collective information to reach this point. Does this make sense? Yes? Okay, more questions, please. We're here speaking of everything that is on that slide. I made an analysis from the perspective where I would be the manager of the customer and of a company of integrated logistics. In this perspective, my questions focused on the product, that is what I am going to transport, and the question for the final client is in which area does he position himself, characterize and identify the product, and then try and identify very precisely which are the competitive advantages of the client, of the company, and try to cross the competitive advantages and my offer in terms of transport, and then identify the strategy of the company in terms of market, that is, prepare the company for its expansion. We can be with a customer today that works in the Iberian Peninsula, but who wants to work for an external market. And we, if we are providers of transport, should be the first to anticipate and to present logistic solutions for other markets. So try and project and identify the 3-year strategy of the company. Another question is the current distribution channel. What channel is he using? And try and see which are the limitations, the technologies. We then have to bring some support here. And the last question is the current position in the value chain and the position that he wants to reach. But here you're going to have to help him a lot, because this question has to be made with a survey, because most of the time they don't know how to locate them in this process. Yes, and I'm sorry I made this. No, do not apologize. Well, 90% of the Portuguese companies are small and medium enterprises. And this is the situation in most of Europe, and most of these companies did not develop systems of information management that can give them these answers. So most of them, this quality management has to be done by an external agent that assesses all of these factors. And everything that isn't an industrial production company is generally very far from these criteria that are necessary to understand where the company is and where it wants to be, especially when we put them in the value chain, when most of the companies have a huge difficulty understanding why they earn money. For example, if the money is the value, or if the value is translated in monetary units, most companies have a lot of difficulties here. That's why there's a great difficulty in going from one generation to another in the business. It's not because the son is lazy. It's just because most of the time the company used to make money due to a set of factors that were not identified. And when the leader leaves the company, he takes with him what he used to do well but couldn't identify. And if he couldn't identify it, he couldn't transmit it to the next generation. So that's one of the issues. Because sometimes the business can can be set on sympathies, for example, and when that key person exits, these sympathies can be broken. That's the way PMEs, SMEs work. So the question is to know why I'm doing the right things and why I'm doing them right, because it's not enough to do the things right and not knowing if they're right, and it's not enough to do it vice versa as well. More questions, please. Vash. I spoke here about the production times that the client would have. For example, if it's a manufacturer company, that is what is the production cycle from the entrance of the material till it exits. And we could go further. We could have the production cycle, and we could have within it the various processing cycles. That is, what is the time of duration from the assembly line to the second assembly line. What is the system? Well, the final time, that is the kind of constraints that exist that can delay the production. And after the production, does the product stay in the warehouse or exit, where basically the need or lack of need of stocking the final product. So this implies a lot of things. And of course, the transit time, the existing transit time, depending on the various final customers. Very good. And the delivery points, if it's just for one customer or if there are several destinations, the geographic dimension, the distribution. Now you focused a lot more because it's easier. You almost focused on the business after the arrival at your customer's house and not before. And I tried to lead you to focus on the moment before. You have something, so go on, Gonzalo. Do you know why? Because this is what you think the customer will know quicker and you'll be able to eliminate, but where there's most to win, it's in the previous supply chain. Generally, this question is the logic of the iceberg. The iceberg has all of this hidden and just has this little tip that is visible. And what we're asking here to our customer is how you manage your work and the work after your intervention, and what's here under what we need to map and identify and improve before the product reaches the customer's house is all the more because it is evident. Here we have more supply chains and much more different steps than the final step. And here we have much more room for improvement, but we generally do not intervene in this process. The other carrier brings the merchandise, the suppliers transport, and we do not enter the business. Most of logistic transporters, carriers, do not explore the possibility of offering an integrated logistic to the customer by saying, let me handle your logistic of your providers. Let us try to align your suppliers with your productive process. Of course, this is not easy. This is a great challenge. And there's here an opportunity that will probably change the concentration of the service processors. For example, EDP, the Portuguese electric company, is something that they did through the company EDP Valor, was to decrease their number of suppliers and take into account the transport process of their suppliers to themselves. When ATP buys high tension posts, cables, they prefer to buy most of the time managing itself the transport flux. It buys from the suppliers and then go get the merchandise, because most of the time it does this intervention by bringing the product from the provider, whether it is boxes or copper thread, and automatically it does a contract of many workers at the national level, and what they manage to do is to avoid and reduce 16 stocks to 2, and whether they either have transit stock or supplier stock or service provider stock, because they questioned, because I was involved in this process in 2008 and I'm aware of it, and so they questioned this process and mapped it. And VP was able then to negotiate 1,000 tons a day. It's difficult to, it's different from having 5 different suppliers negotiating many tons a day. So there's much less waste, because it's much easier to fight the waste in the supply chain before EDP got its product, after it received it, and at the moment it delivers it. It was much more compressed, and from this compression there was financial benefits, less costs, less time, less stock, less malfunctions, less waste, less time of preparation, everything related to cost, of course. So I'm not sure if you can see what's important here. The greater part of the opportunity is what we don't see, and the most distant I was at the operational center, I was the most I understood the opportunities of it, because I started looking as an outsider, as a consultant, and I told them to focus on this area because there was much more in this area to win. So now we're going to hear Gonzalo, who is thinking under the iceberg here. I have 2 questions. That is before the sale to the customer. One of them is to know the estimate time of production and expedition, and try to inform the customer if they are being followed, because most of the time I say that it's urgent, because I told the customer that it was supposed to be ready on the 10th and today is the 15th. Then the customer puts pressure on them and they put pressure on us. Well, it's a chain of anxieties, really. And that says something about the customer, because the customer doesn't have control over the mapping of the production, and we need to control that. And we realize that the customer doesn't have that efficient production mapping, and we have a coefficient here that this customer is going to generate more changes in the operational plans, more anxieties, and so there must have an added value, an added cost, of course. I have another question that has more to do with production, and that's where we verify the most presence of raw material. Yes, it's important, but we're working within the production here. We are not working before the raw materials reach the customer's house. We're still having this handicap. I mentioned the product of the client, and I don't mean the post-product. I mentioned the previous product, that is knowing if the client imports raw material, if he produces it, and then wants to obtain the final product. And so here we're in this occult part of the iceberg, as we said. I want to speak about the product before it was finished, and then the other part would be much later. How many raw materials does the customer have? He will tell me 3. How much suppliers for each? 3 for each one of them. That's what he answers me. And we can ask him how many times he buys outside of these suppliers, and he will tell me that never. Where are they? Do you have negotiated plans for distribution? Do you have negotiable prices? Do you pay the transport cost, or does the customer do it? Then we can present a proposal. If he buys directly to a delivery to your house, we can make a proposal and reduce the cost of the purchase, because we can say that we have trucks that go regularly to that or to that place, and that he can get some benefit from this, because the supplier won't be able to say it. The person will have to say that it's either indifferent for them, or that they're going to have to increase in the cost of other transport. If my benefit is above 2%, I have here an opportunity for business. In terms of organization of my time, I would just like to know if today you have constraints. 6. Okay. For people abroad now, We're going to do as we did yesterday. At 6, we're going to stop, but then we'll be available for any questions you might have or any analysis, any contribution you might send by chat or by email in the process. And now, one of the things that I would like to do today clearly is for each of you to, taking into account what we've been saying, what we had the opportunity to read, I would like for you to think, if you had to present your services as logistics service providers at a global level, global operators with the potentialities of transport, of transit, including the sending the merchandise, the contact with the port entities, with the shipment agencies, which would be the three basic points to be presented to a new potential customer. That is, which would be the three factors that you would highlight as key factors, key indicators for the customer to work with you as global logistic operator. Another element, three factors. And the other fundamental question here would be to how would you, which would be your mission and your vision as a company? Is it clear? Is it clear abroad as well, Joanna? Yes. So three factors that might lead the customer to want to work with you, and how the way you show, you disseminate your mission can incorporate those factors for the customer to want to work with. We have here Is it done already? Okay, great. I usually say that in terms of indicators, we have performance indicators that show us how things happen, and we have key indicators, which mean that how do the factors that provoke changes are being attained. Performance doesn't always mean results. Sometimes we can have a great performance and a terrible result. The team can have a great offensive capacity to 30 crossings, but have other issues. So they can have a great game quality, but have other flaws. And the other team will have abilities not to suffer any goals, but they have bad performance indicators. They do not pass, they have no technique, and so they end up having better results, but not a better performance. So football here is a good image. Well, back then, Otavio Machado from the Porto club used to go get his players at and they would watch how they played. Nowadays, it's not the same thing anymore. Well, they will discover them anywhere. That's true. Our poor boys here sharing their bottle. These are private jokes that are passing through to our friends abroad. Our little apologies for this for these conversations. You can have a look at this as well.
Are you guys ready? Who wants to start? Gonzalo. 3 words: reliability, trust, and competitiveness. Mission. Small sentence here. Being a key player in the market, our mission is to grow together with companies, being a strategic partner for its logistical needs. Reliability, trust, and competitiveness. Trust and reliability are aligned with each other, but it's very good. And competitive. So the mission is being a key player in the market. Our mission is to grow together with companies, being a strategic partner for the logistic needs. Just a small comment. This has to do with marketing. When we are defining our mission, we should use the we. It's not being. We need to be affirmative. Okay, next. Miguel. Reliability, performance, and results. In the mission I wrote, we grow, we develop with you, always aware of our targets. Of our targets and of the targets of the client. Ours and them. It's good, but the idea needs to be that our mission is to tell the client that he grows if he works with us. It's okay. How are we capable of doing this? using the logistic skills in order for the client to grow, to gain, and we are gaining with the success of our client also. Okay, good one, Vasco. I had here flexibility, quality, and availability. Availability is one thing, flexibility is another. Quality, we need to find something that tells us what quality is. Because quality is everything that you said, and they just said also. But we are part of a network of WCNA. We have agents in different points of the globe. Maybe we could put globalization. It will be more focused regarding imports. We have an agent, China, for example. We could put dispersion, globalization, internationalization. This brings more than quality, and it goes right through it. You have international networks. So that is a factor of competition. It's a differentiating factor. Quality, there are thousands of people that will place quality there. Everyone is saying quality delivering, quality pizzas. So now, to say that we have 50 correspondents in Europe makes a difference, right? And the idea is that we need to be effective and very proactive in between. Reliability, everyone knows. Availability, everyone knows also. Trust, it can be measured. When we say presence, direct presence in 50 cities of the world, in 40 capitals, this has great weight. From the other side, they can ask us, who are your correspondents in the 40 capitals? And you send an email, everything you need. Here you have it. Does this make sense? And mission? What you need, we'll do. Sometimes we need to draw targets because there are things that they need that we cannot do. It's what we have in the page. That's exactly what is written here. He had an advantage. He already thought of this before. Three influencing factor. What global logistics provider? Eco-sustainability and social responsibility. Three patterns in the scope of the mission of the company. We want to become your key partner in integrated logistics. Well, I have a question regarding the mission that we want. No, we are the logistic partner of reference in this sector. We need to use the sense of that I will be, no, I am. We are already in the indicative. Okay, that notion, yeah, sure. All the four of you are able to establish a design. So you want the microphone, Joanna? We have contributions about the factors that the students online have considered to be important to differentiate the service and be competitive and attractive. Andrea, for example, quickness, good practices, and the client service also, attention to the client, and also the possibility of placing orders in a multitask way, starting from a PA, technology at the service of the order, an integrated and simplified service. Stefano said that it is competitiveness. It will be interesting regarding prices, costs, of services. And we have also a new student that it's identified as Pepe. That's okay. Andrea was saying that it was a custom procedure to agilize the procedure to provide that service. Okay, we take care of everything in integrated service, including customs barriers and interstate and interconvention problems. Okay, very good, very good. And among the other factors, Pepe is saying that to be reliable, to be on time, high quality, and low price. The only question here is, what is high quality? In 99% of time, we need to quantify high quality. It's something that it's very subjective. We need to say that our service provision is this, this, and this. It is 99% of events in the correct time, 90% with estimated costs. These types of things can need to be quantified. 0% malfunctions of exchange of the destination of goods, 0% lags. So if we were to punctuate each one of these factors, when we have between 98 and 100, it has 5 points, and if we lower this, it has 1 point. And we can say that our quality index is this one. But previously, we need to negotiate with the client the quality index that is composed by reliability, trust, time for delivery, breakdowns, traceability. All this set of factors can create what you can anticipate what is the chart of quality. We can create a chart of quality, a letter of service is associated with a quality chart. I hope that you keep this concept creating quality charts, because here we will quantify the proposition of quality that can be compared with the best international practices of the country. There is a reference for logistic, or the best international practices or regional ones for a set of countries, okay? Is this clear? Quality charts. And at last, Stefano has identified two things that are more specific, which is respect for deadlines, that we compromise ourselves with the client, and the interaction with the client, customer service. We need to speak more about that. Customer service is important. And that's all. Last question. Each one of you can highlight something from today. A point, an idea, please. Please. What do you highlight? These are charts that can quantify different parameters that can define quality. So we are not debating quality in a way that's only subjective, and it's objective, the fulfillment of the quality charts. Okay, Miguel. Please, Miguel. Highlight a point from today. I would like to highlight the mission. The mission is what we create, what we are, and in what way our mission can contribute to the competitive advantage of our clients. Okay, great. Vasco. Maybe within this mission, to know how to study the client, diagnostic of the needs of the client, to know what he can improve. Great. Elio. Called my attention as a challenge to think of a model to award or positively make a difference in the scope of the supply chain, good practices, of our providers or clients in order to reduce the constraints. For example, if we have a certain client that ensures that the truck is only 10 minutes waiting, to think on mechanisms of benefits that are within line of waste, but instead of penalizing, let's award good practices. This is something that I think we should develop. Well, this adds value. From abroad, do you have any idea, some point that they have highlighted? Then for you, it's a break at the end. We hope that they have some contribution by email. So officially, this is the break and the closure of today. Tomorrow, I'll tell you how it will start. We'll have a practical work here and abroad, which is to build a chart quality, or in this case, a quality chart. Think about it. A business logistic process and a quality chart. Do you accept the challenge? Okay, see you tomorrow. Thank you. Hélio, do you accept? Abraço. And see you